Join me on page 214 in your reading textbook. If you're not there now, pause the video, open up your textbook, and turn it to page 214. So the story this week, the genre is folktale. A folktale is a story based on the traditions of a people or region, which is handed down from one generation to the next and becomes legendary. We have folktales here in the United States. For example, Paul Bunyan is a classic folktale that has been passed down for many years. We're going to be looking at cause and effect. I like to think of it as because and effect. So because of this happened. Okay. So we're going to be thinking about that. Read to find out what is the cause of Chameleon's generosity. So because something happened, the chameleon became a very generous person. So we're going to try to find out what was that cause. What happened that made the chameleon generous? Follow along.
The Magic Gourd by Baba Wagu Dakite. It all began when the sun refused to allow the clouds to gather and there was no rain. First came drought, then came famine. Everyone was hungry, and it was then that Brother Rabbit wandered around the parched countryside searching for wild roots to feed his starving family. As he walked, he sang, Fieku, Fieku, Warasakunte. Luck will come, life will be good.
Okay, now we're on 217.
Suddenly, Rabbit was interrupted by a sweet little voice that called out, Dogozan, Dogozan, rescue me from this thorny bush. My arms are being poked and scratched. Help me, and I will pay you well. Rabbit was busy, but still he stopped. I will help, simply to avoid seeing my brother suffer, said Rabbit. Gently he lowered his hand between the thorny branches and saved the green chameleon. As Rabbit turned to leave, Chameleon called out to him once again. Dogozan, don't go yet. Would you mind getting my gourd from the bush, too? A gourd? Cried Brother Rabbit. You want me to scratch myself again for a little gourd? Please, Dogozan, begged Chameleon. I will reward you well.
So remember, we're trying to figure out what causes Chameleon to become generous. So right now, Rabbit is doing Chameleon some favors. So could that be what causes Chameleon to be generous? Let's read on. Page 218.
Again, Rabbit's kind nature got the best of him, and he bent into the thorny bush and rummaged around. Rabbit brought out a beautifully decorated gourd and handed it to Chameleon. The chameleon just said, Keep it, it's your reward. It's just an empty gourd, Rabbit cried. It's not just an empty gourd, Chameleon replied. It's magic. Eco-dee, cried Rabbit. A magic gourd? Oh yes, said Chameleon. Watch this, magic gourd, fill yourself up with insects. Brother Rabbit watched in amazement as Chameleon licked up a bowl full of insects. Why are you giving me such a valuable gift? Rabbit asked. You were kind to me, Brother Rabbit, Chameleon said. Besides, I have my own secret for catching insects. And he quickly unrolled his long tongue for Rabbit to admire. Rabbit thanked Brother Chameleon and rushed home with his gourd.
Okay, so again, Chameleon is being generous by giving Rabbit his gourd. This is kind of what a gourd looks like. Think of it as a bowl. And what happened as a result of Rabbit's kindness? Because, so remember, because and effect. Because Rabbit was kind to Chameleon, what did Chameleon do? Well, he gave Rabbit this magic gourd. Okay, continuing, page 219.
As soon as he arrived home, his entire family eagerly gathered around. An empty gourd, they all gasped in disbelief. It's not just an empty gourd, said Brother Rabbit. It's a magic gourd. Watch this, magic gourd, he said. Fill yourself up with carrots. To their astonishment, the gourd magically filled with carrots. Happily, they ate them all. "Magic Gourd, fill yourself up with couscous," he said. Again they ate until they were satisfied. "Magic Gourd, fill yourself up with water," he said, and they drank deeply.
Continuing on page 220.
From that day on, Brother Rabbit's family drank and ate well. But as much as they wanted to keep the Magic Gourd a family secret, they also could not sit and watch friends and neighbors suffer. So they invited them to share their meals every day. And this is how word floated around from one to the other until it came to the house of Mansa Jugu, the greedy king. One day, the greedy king and his soldiers broke into Rabbit's compound and forced the little gourd away from him. Now, with the Magic Gourd in his possession, Mansa Jugu sat day and night commanding the little gourd to fill and refill with more and more gold. Meanwhile, unable to get the Magic Gourd back, Rabbit returned once again to his poor life, scrounging for wild roots to feed his hungry family. Despite the hardships of the moment, he still had courage to sing, "Fieku, fieku, warasakunte." Luck will come, life will be good.
So you can see the contrast between Rabbit and the greedy king. Rabbit was willing to help Chameleon, whether he was going to be rewarded or not. And then once he had the gourd, he shared what the gourd would make with his neighbors. And then the king comes and steals the gourd. Rather than sharing, the king just wants it for himself. So cause and effect, what happened when Rabbit decided to share the gourd with his neighbors? Well, because, remember, because and effect, because he shared it with the neighbors, more and more people started to find out about it, and that is how the king ended up hearing about it. So it did kind of backfire that he shared, because by sharing with so many people, finally the king started hearing rumors of this magic gourd, and he went and stole it for himself. Okay, page 221, follow along.
One day, while hunting for roots, Rabbit heard his name being called again. "Dogozan! Dogozan!" Recognizing the sweet little voice, he turned and looked in all directions. Slowly, the chameleon came into view right next to him on a sparkling green rock. "Dogozan, what has happened to you?" cried Chameleon. "You look skinny and pathetic." Rabbit told him all about the greedy king who stole the gourd. Again, Brother Chameleon offered a gift to Brother Rabbit. This time, it was the beautiful crystal rock he had been standing on. "What is this, Brother Chameleon?" asked Rabbit. "This is just a fara, a little rock." As soon as the words came out of his mouth, the rock leaped into the air and bounced off his head. "Ee-hee, Fara!" cried Rabbit. "Stop! Stop!" Again the rock knocked his head. "Excuse me, Dogozan," said the chameleon. "You must call him by his name, Faraba." With that, the rock dropped silently to the ground. Rabbit thanked Chameleon for this unusual gift and returned home.
So maybe you can do some foreshadowing, some predicting as how Rabbit might use this new gift that he has. Maybe it doesn't really seem like such a great gift right now because it bonked him in the head a bunch of times. But we'll see. Let's read on. Page 222.
The next day, Brother Rabbit rolled the rock in a fresh shio leaf and walked to the king's palace. "I have brought you a mysterious gift, Your Majesty," said Brother Rabbit. "Aha, Mundan! What is it?" asked the king anxiously. Rabbit slowly unrolled the rock from the shio leaf and showed it to Mansa Jugu. "Eee, Faradoran!" exclaimed the king. "A simple rock?" And with that, the little rock began ricocheting off the head of the king. "Ato! Ato! Stop this rock!" cried the king, but no one could capture it. All day and all night the little rock played music on the heads of the king and his soldiers. The annoyance continued, and the king became troubled. Mansa Jugu was finally forced to call on Rabbit for help. Cleverly, Brother Rabbit demanded his little gourd back first. "You may take all the gold, but leave me the gourd," said the greedy king.
So we see now how Rabbit, did any of you make that prediction that somehow Rabbit would give that rock to the greedy king so the rock would hit the greedy king? And only Rabbit knows how, well, Rabbit and Chameleon know how to stop the rock. Not the rock Dwayne Johnson, the crystal rock. All right, page 223, follow along.
"But the gourd was a gift to me," replied Rabbit. "Then take all my food from my royal storage bins, but leave me the gourd," cried the annoyed king. "Idusuda, let us bargain," countered Rabbit. "My little gourd is my prize." The king angrily shouted, "Uta, Uta, take it all! Take the gold, the food, and the little gourd." Rabbit took the gourd, but left the gold and the food behind. And before he turned to flee, he shouted, "Faraba!" Calmly, the little rock dropped into Rabbit's hand. Fearing revenge from the king, Rabbit's family escaped to the country to join their faithful friend Chameleon. From Chameleon's great lessons in disguises, Brother Rabbit learned the skill of hiding in the bush. Today, Dogozan and his family are masters at going undetected. One could be hiding in your backyard right now.
So this story or folktale is describing why rabbits are so hard to find. They date it back to this encounter with Chameleon. Okay, continuing, page 224.
Mansa Jugu, the greedy king, and his soldiers felt embarrassed by their defeat at the hand of a rabbit and a small rock. The king could not believe that in his moment of weakness he had given away the wealth of his kingdom. Exhausted and hungry, the king sat down to eat before pursuing Brother Rabbit for revenge. Upon opening his storage bins, he was surprised to discover that all of his wealth and food remained. "Come eat," he called to his soldiers and servants. "Let us appreciate what we have been given." From this final kind act of Rabbit, the greedy king Mansa Jugu began to learn the importance of generosity and friendship. As for Rabbit and Chameleon, they have always understood that loyal friendships are the true treasures that make one rich. And for their many good deeds, all sang a song of praise to Rabbit and Chameleon.
So it looks like our king finally learned his lesson because Rabbit was so generous to him. Remember, he told Rabbit, "Take it all. Take my gold, take my food, and take your gourd. Just stop this stinking rock," right? And so when he went to get some food, he realized that Rabbit had left him all his gold and all the food, and he had only taken his gourd back. So the king said, "Realize now that's a good character trait, to be generous and to be kind and loyal to your friends." Okay, let's just go through the glossary real quick.
Glossary. Here are some words from the story that are in Bambara, the national language of Mali. Dogozan, Brother Rabbit. Mansa Jugu, greedy king. Mansa means ruler, Jugu means greedy. Idusuda, let us bargain, calm down. Ikodi, exclamation of surprise when a person doesn't believe what they have just heard. What did you say? Farah, rock. Faraba, Mr. Rock, title of respect. Farah Doran, a simple rock. Mundan, what is it? Shio, a bush with large leaves found in Mali. Ato, stop. Uta, take it all. Fieku, Warasakunte. This is a chant of encouragement to give hope for survival in difficult times. Note, Bambara is a metaphorical language, so the English translation is not always literal. Not a literal translation.
All right. Thanks for following along, and I will see you on the next video.